continue. So as soon as I heard that, I remember this video from this ExxonMobil lobbyist that was talking about who the big name players are, who they depend on to continue to not pay any of their fair share and continue to rip people off and also destroy the environment. And then every time legislation comes forward, torpedo that too. Maybe you can remember who's on his list. Remember this?
Senators pressed to do Exxon's bidding behind closed doors.
You want to be able to go to the chief. Yeah. And so the chief knows you, that you can go to the chief and say, look, we've got this issue. We need Congressman so-and-so to be able to either introduce this bill. We need him to make a floor statement. We need him to send a letter. Yeah. You name it. We've asked for everything.
So who are the fish?
I'm Joe Manchin. I approve this act because
The biggest catch, according to Mr. Coy, it's the conservative Democrat Senator Joe Manchin, who famously shot President Obama's cap-and-trade climate bill.
And I'll take dead aim at the cap-and-trade bill.
Who's the crucial guys for you?
Joe Manchin. I talk to his office every week. He is the kingmaker on this because he's a Democrat from West Virginia, which is a very conservative state. We look for the moderates on these issues. So it's the Manchins, it's the Cinemas.
They look for the moderates on this issue, and the kingmaker being Joe Manchin. Now, Martha Raddatz may have asked Bernie Sanders or told him, hey, but this is what Joe Manchin said. Let me read this prepared statement, just trying to cover up all the things that he's up to. And instead of literally going to what we've already seen, that's not a new video. What we've already seen and how they've talked about who they rely on to continue pushing their same efforts and write the bills for politicians to submit and vote on or not vote on or reject or put hurdles in front of like Joe Manchin does. David.
The shame in all of this is that also, I mean, on top of everything you just identified, is that Martha Raddatz, who I think is a wonderful journalist, but to take Joe Manchin's word that he cares about inflation, if you look at the proposals that he supported, even the proposals that he supported as of 3 weeks ago, there was nothing inflationary about any of them. Any of the energy policies, spending money on climate. No, every economist that said this will not cause inflation. But the media allows Joe Manchin to torpedo and sabotage Joe Biden's agenda by saying, oh, but he's concerned about inflation. No, he's not. That has nothing to do with inflation. And at a certain point, the media has to be more responsible and actually look at the policies that Joe Manchin supported, which he now is against because of inflation, and go talk to economists and find out from them. Oh, is it really about inflation? Because they'll tell you it's not, which then leads you to believe, well, why is Joe Manchin doing this? Because he's torpedoing the Democratic agenda. That's why he's carrying the water of these energy companies. That's why.
Because he's paid to. I'm glad you pointed out, David, that about Martha Raddatz, because I don't want to go so hard on her like it's been the plan. But the approach is, I had this question about Bernie Sanders is going to be opposing to what Joe Manchin is doing. Here's what Joe Manchin has to say. I just would like for it to be more of a complete approach. We know who he is. We know what he said and what he's done and what has been said and done about what his approach is to these types of things. We can't forget who he is and who he has been while this argument happens. So I get it. And maybe she was rattled because she had a specific direction she wanted to go and he was interrupting and talking over sots and everything.
Well, it still would have been interesting if she would have said to Bernie Sanders, look, Senator Sanders, yes, Joe Manchin is saying a bunch of nonsense about inflation. Yes, there's, who knows why he's doing this, but what do you make of him torpedoing the Democratic agenda? Bernie Sanders' response is still interesting. Martha Raddatz didn't have to buy into this. Oh, but he says he's worried about inflation. Do your homework. He's not worried about inflation. That is not what is driving him. What is driving him is what he owes the energy companies. And say, look, he's in the back pocket of the energy companies, Bernie Sanders. What do you do about it? Bernie Sanders' response would be interesting.
Maybe it's her producers. Who knows? Emily and Emilio, my two producers, are excellent. They would have gotten to the bottom of that immediately. You heard one of them on the air earlier. See if you can guess which one. A couple more YouTube super chats before we break out from this Monday, because again, miss you guys. Shadows says, this is YouTube super chats, you guys. If you can't run towards the danger, get another job. Of course, talking about the Uvalde police and more of the fallout that happens. John Weber says, centrists, in quotes, are the dumb car that won't get out of the way of the ambulance. Agent Domino says, can we get TYT Stop the Squeal merch? You mentioned that, David, the Stop the Squeal stuff. It's pretty good from Alan Simpson there. He's still rolling smoothly. Carmina the Seeing Dragon says, I'm in Florida, DeSantis is a fascist. Well, I'm in California, and DeSantis is a fascist. Thank you, David, for joining us on yet another watch list. It's good to be back. Thank you guys for also being with us in all the comments. Love being here with you guys despite all of the down news. But it's a Monday, best day of the week. We'll be back tomorrow for more of this. Up next is John Iadarola with the Damage Report. We will see you later.
Welcome back, one and all, to another fantastic Monday on the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and Francesca Fiorentini herself. How is it going?
What's up, everybody? It's okay. You know, I hope everything's good this week. You know what I mean? Like I feel like last week and like many months, everything's been bad. But I got a good feeling about the week of July 18th.
Yeah, we need to get a who's the guy that freaks out over financial news and he's like the wacky inflatable guy. What's his name? Kramer.
Michael, yeah.
We need to get a system like his, like Jim Cramer's, for the sort of news that we're gonna get. Like I would go so far today to say that so far the news isn't bad. I would classify it as not good. But that's better. That's moving in the right direction, which for me is to the left.
I'll take not bad.
Yeah, we need like we need one of those like magic 8 balls to tell us what kind of news. But anyway, no, I mean, look, yeah, it's not good. We got some bad people. We have a few figures popping up on the show today that I have not talked about in quite a while. I'm actually quite excited about it. We've got some international news that I would classify as devastating. So that'll be interesting. But we also have an inspirational, not inspirational in terms of the content, but we have an ad from a politician who is themselves inspirational. And I don't know about you, but I need it. I need it. So
I'll take it.
We got a lot to look forward to on the show. So thank you everyone for tuning in, regardless of what platform you're on. It is much appreciated. And if that platform is one in which liking the stream is a thing, now would be a great time to do that. So everybody gets the notifications, knows we're live and all that. And if you wanna send us any tweets, comments, super chats, anything as we go, that would be great. We'll respond during our little social breaks. But with all that said, Francesca, are you ready to start the show?
See.
Okay. We're gonna start off with bad news.
Oh, damn it.
More heavily armored officers arrive, but no one gives the order to go in. Then suddenly a new round of gunfire. But after those gunshots, Arredondo again tries to talk with the shooter.
Can you hear me, sir?
And again, minutes later.
Sir, if you can hear me, please put your firearm down, sir. We don't want anybody else hurt.
I know.
That's what we're doing. We're trying to get him out.
After no response, police still stand around without much urgency. Over the course of the next nearly 30 minutes, we see more officers arrive.
So a lot came out over the weekend. A big report looking into the response, or basically non-response, from law enforcement in that Uvalde, the devastating shooting, as well as new body cam footage. And look, I think that there's a lot there that we gotta dive into. There's also some stuff baked into it that I think people are missing, and I wanna reiterate. So we're gonna get to that too. But overall, the bottom line is nearly 400 local, state, and federal law enforcement officers were at the scene that day, including 91 state troopers, none of whom moved to lead the response. 400 people with, I think it's safe to say, the equipment, the training, and the obligation to do something. And there's certainly, when you watch the video, there are cops there saying, why aren't we going in? Why aren't we doing so? There were people there who wanted to act, but none of the many people who could have taken control of the situation chose to do so, Arredondo being, I think, at the top of that list. And by the way, he had written the active shooter response plan for that school district as Pete Arredondo. He'd assigned himself as incident commander, but did not follow the protocol that he himself had set up. He was on the site, you saw him in the video trying to, I guess, talk down the shooter. At one point, someone is screaming to the shooter. This can be peaceful. At that point, many people had already died, of course. But anyway, while this report that came out, it doesn't make clear if lives could have been saved with a swifter response. It left open the possibility. Well, isn't that open-minded of the report? See, it's the report that did it. No human was involved. The report coalesced from the cosmic dust of creation. And so no one is responsible for the proclamations of the report, just the paper itself. But there's a lot more bad stuff here. Francesca, make of what we found out over the weekend.
I mean, I definitely think that it's good. The report basically like blamed all law enforcement, including, the Customs and Border Patrol folks that were on the scene. Pretty much everyone, there's 400 of you. And none of y'all in all of your infinite training and weaponry decide that you need to go in right now. 78 minutes later is when you go in. It's insane. Arredondo in that clip is saying, sir, we don't want any more violence. This is a madman. This is someone who's gone into a school and has opened fire. You already know they crashed their car, right? So like, oh no, I mean, maybe it's like a really level-headed mass shooter. You know those? You know those ones? No, man, this is not a heist. We're not at a bank here. We're in a school and you can hear, I'm sorry, you guys, you can hear children screaming. We can't, they can't. Yeah. They know there are people injured there and they know there are people who are dead, right? And so the decision was, oh, are they dead or are they kind of dead? And they decided they're dead. So we're not gonna go, it's just too late. It's too late. Yeah, that's what it was. And Arredondo, by the way, before we move on, yeah, he was about to be on city council. So this is a guy who was not thinking about his own protocol. He was thinking about his political career. And that's just so fitting. No.
His eyes are cast forward to city council, then maybe mayor, governor someday, President Arredondo, so that he could fail hundreds of millions of people rather than that specific community.
I hear that's how you do it, John.
That's how you do it. So yeah, anyway, like I'm glad that look, the report makes pretty clear how bad this was. It does pull its punches needlessly, I think in some places. Like for instance, I'm gonna go ahead to graphic 5. Other than the attacker, this report did not find any villains in the course of its investigation. There is no one to whom we can attribute malice or ill motives. Instead, we found systemic failures and egregious poor decision making. So for instance, we're pointing out, the cops and all that, the army of law enforcement, the army of guns that they had. But they also cite a culture of non-compliance from school administrators who are aware of unsafe practices, such as teachers routinely leaving doors unlocked or propping them open, and the shortage of keys for interior and exterior entrances. Poor internet and mobile coverage interfered with teachers receiving lockdown notifications and being able to report the attack to local police. Yeah, that is interesting. The most interesting thing about it is that it's effing like irrelevant. He's gonna get in. The locked door isn't gonna stop the guy with the AR. Oh, the teachers didn't find out about the lockdown. Well, except for the notifications, they got the rapid fire notifications as each bullet left the chamber of the rifle. I think that was their notification. Being able to report the attack to local police. No. The police were there relatively fast. That's kind of part of the issue, that they didn't act. No, this is not on the Wi-Fi, it's not on the teachers, it's not on the doors, okay? And I wanna go to my main point here, because when this report comes out saying hundreds of cops, they all failed, and we rightfully get incensed. Why weren't they braver? Why wasn't their organization? Why didn't they rush in? And every one of those impulses is right to have. It is your ethical obligation to be frustrated by those things. But like I said on day one, the solution to the problem wasn't a good apple. The solution to the problem wasn't Arredondo saying, let's go in there, storm the barricade, because you know what you would have had, even if they'd done that in minute 3, you would have potentially saved some lives, and that would be a good thing. But you know what else you would have had? A whole bunch of dead people, because they were already dead, okay? Moving in there solves some of the needless additional problems. It doesn't solve the fundamental problem, which is that someone could go to a store and buy a gun capable of killing tons of people in a very short period of time. That's the problem. And no amount of rapid response or SWAT or extra training or a faster alert system is going to stop that fundamental problem. And my fear is that when people see this report, they say, oh, it's the cops. They need better training. They need a better chain of command. No, that'll solve the cops' problem. It won't solve America's problem, which is the access to the weaponry in the first place.
Absolutely, and you can see that because there are 400 of them, and it's not just chain of command, you guys. They're scared. The cops are scared, and this is not the first mass shooting where cops have hesitated. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, also a police officer, was on scene, hesitated, did not want to go in. Until the police join the majority of people in this country to advocate for tougher gun safety laws and for actually getting assault weapons off the streets, We're all going to be victimized. And they know it more than anyone else. Why are they cowering in fear when they know it's one person? They already know it's one person. They already know, even in their best scenario, which is a gunman is barricaded by himself, or at least by himself, the only person who's alive by himself, which was maybe not even how did they know? How did they know?
Exactly.
But anyway, even if we were to assume that, they were still afraid to go in. Why? Because nobody wants to die. Because everyone understands how powerful an AR-15 is. Everyone understands these kinds of weapons. And yeah, it's scary as hell. Now, you can say that is your training, that is your job. I would agree with that. But I'd also say that maybe no one should be put in that position where they're staring down the barrel of a high-powered semi-automatic weapon of war, like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's borne out by the fact that you'll notice that the conversation around Uvalde is that the cops didn't rush in. But that's not the conversation in a lot of these situations. I mean, Stoneman Douglas had a similar sort of thing a bit with a security guard, but that wasn't the conversation around some of these others, because in some of the other of the many school shootings that we've had in America, there doesn't appear to be evidence that the cops waited. You had brave cops who rushed in, doing things that most of us can't imagine doing and in all likelihood couldn't do. They were brave. And in those cases, you still had tons of people dead. That is the proof of this. Them rushing in and shooting the shooter, that is good once we've already had the inevitable outcome of our completely non-existent gun policy here in America. That's a solution to the problem we created, okay? But the actual solution means that you don't have to roll the dice on the bravery of an individual cop.
Yeah.
And if I could just briefly go ahead. The police chief is on leave. We'll see what ends up happening with that. All of the, not just the failure on that day, but all the lies about the attempted cover up, even that footage we were showing you. The mayor had to unilaterally release that and might get in trouble because of it. Like, they're still trying to cover it up. There was another shooting, many shootings, by the way. We're not gonna be able to talk about all of them because this is America. Over the weekend, Indiana Mall, gunman killed 3 people. And hey, they were lucky. There was, in this case, a good guy with a gun who took out the shooter. And hey, we were doubly lucky because in this particular case, the cops didn't arrive and then shoot the good guy with the gun, as happens every once in a while. And so we don't have a problem because a guy can go and buy a gun and go to a mall and shoot a bunch of people, and maybe there's another gun nearby. So problem solved. No change of policy necessary, Francesca.
No, but it's insane. And including in the Uvalde report, right? There's a police officer who wants to open fire on a man who's also running away and who's dressed in black. He was told not to open fire. Turns out that was a PE teacher. So good, great. I'm glad, right? And you're exactly right. You're never gonna know where the gunfire, I'm reminded of the Las Vegas shooting. What was it, 60 some odd people dead, murdered, just like picked off one by one. And you had so many people who were armed there. And I think it was one of the bands who was like, we didn't know where the gunfire was coming from. How are we supposed to just fire willy-nilly back into the crowd and make things even worse? Sometimes, come on, look at the Highland Park shooter, also picking off people from a vantage point. How do you know where they're coming from? So yeah, you're exactly, oh yay, this one instance, but mark our words, we know what the right is gonna pick up on in that report. The teachers didn't lock the doors. Oh, it's the teachers. Maybe you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have school. It's mostly CRT anyway. We should just do away with it. They can't handle a mass shooter. You can't handle my kid.
Yeah, you're 3% exaggerating. That is much.
Like a little bit, a degree.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm glad that the report came out. This will probably result in more funding going to the cops. Honestly, let's keep it real about what effect a report like this is likely to have. If more cops and more guns were the solution, at what point between 1 and 400 cops should we have expected that to kick in? And yet it didn't. It didn't. Okay, with that said, we're gonna take the first break of our hour. When we come back, hard-hitting ad from an awesome politician, a candidate who's appeared on our own show, striking back against the destruction of Roe v. Wade. We're gonna have that for you and more after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what is going on out there. First of all, we are fresh off the watch list. Everyone definitely should be tuning into that. J.R. Jackson is back from his break. Maybe tune in tomorrow, show him some support. And coming up after our program, Dr. Rashad Ritchie will be going live with Indisputable. Jessica Burbank will be joining him as co-host, and David McGarry will be on for a debate. So that should be a lot of fun too. By the way, coming up with the conversation today, Cenk Uygur is going to be speaking with former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. I don't know what they're going to be talking about, but that sounds interesting. Is de Blasio going to be running for president? Oh, tune in to find out. No, but it should be exciting. That's pretty big cat. Look at that for Cenk. Anyway, with that said, let's jump into members' comments. Eric the Red says, "Please, sir, so respectful." Yeah. I mean, look, if I were to make a list of all the things that Arredondo did wrong there, that would be number 7 to hear something. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Chicago Ganai says in the members' comments, the Uvalde Police Department to deflect and swerve. Yeah, certainly when there's an investigation happening. Strategic Diversity Dragon says the TDR thumbnail has a rubber bath duck reading a big book. Any bets what that is about? I defy you to guess, but Norma did great work there. No, it's actually a story that's gonna be coming up in the last half hour of the show. I swear it's almost accurate, almost. Anyway, over in the YouTubes, Mama Bear Dragon has been a member for 20 months and says this week better be a good one. Wednesday is my B-day, no plans, my life is boring. Yeah, but in 2022, is boring the worst thing that could happen?
No.
Boring is okay. I can tolerate some boring. Day Drunk Disco Dragon has been here for 20 months as well. Thank you at tier 2, thus giving you access for 20 months now to our top 10 lists. After the show, Francesca and I are gonna be recording our top 10 list. And I was inspired by something. I was engaged in a conversation on Reddit. 10 things that were that sucked or were terrible when you were young, that now not so bad. Boring maybe should be on that list, but we're gonna get into that after the show. Mariah the Ginkgo Dragon's been a member for 17 months, says John and Fran, such a great combo of hosts. You guys make Mondays bearable. We try, thank you. How much time do we have? We 1:39. You know, I forgot to mention this earlier. What's up with them Bitchuation rooms? What's going on with them rooms?
Oh, it was so good. We talked about Sri Lanka last night, and everybody tuned into that. I hear their
economy's in a rough spot. The politicians on the run. Yeah.
People are rising up. It's like their whole Occupy movement, and it's pretty dope. Also, Biden's Mideast trip and all good things. NATO Green was on. So yeah, at Franny Fio on YouTube or Bitchuation Room, wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome. Now, in the super chats, Matthew Wright sent in one to say had to say goodbye to Papa Dragon last week. Oh no. He may have thought we were all a bunch of hippie dreamsters, but he would have appreciated the passion and straightforwardness of TDR, 5 stars given. That's really sad. I'm sad, Matthew. I'm really sorry about that. I lost my dad many years ago, so I feel for you. John Shepard says in a super chat, agree with John about the recommendations. As a programmer, is systems thinking. You cannot solve one part of the system, cops, and ignore the other design decisions, gun control. Exactly. Well, they're trying to, I guess, they're trying to do a patch that doesn't solve the problem. Or you could argue they're trying to distract you from the actual reforms that would be needed to solve the fundamental problem. Let's see, Andrew Allman says, even the report is both sidesing the Uvalde shooting. That's really pathetic, 100%, although I will remind you, you should only be mad at the report. No people were involved in the crafting of it. Anyway, Constrained Agency's been with us for 13 months on the Twitch. Thank you for that. We got many other shout outs to give, but first this. Cutting it close there. But with that said, we're gonna jump into a political ad. The imagery is intense. So consider yourself warned as we start off.
On June 24th, the Supreme Court voted to overturn Roe v. Wade and created a real-life horror story for women in America. This decision has stripped the rights to a legal and safe abortion from millions of women in this country. It does not, however, stop abortions from happening. Countries that restrict abortions have a higher rate of abortion than countries that don't.
That is Gary Chambers, friend of the show, who's running for Senate in Louisiana, responding to the destruction of Roe v. Wade. And we're gonna show you more of the ad. Bear in mind, you might have been able to guess from the beginning, his ads are intense, understandably so. So bear that in mind as we continue.
Women in poverty are less likely to be able to afford safe methods of abortion and also risk being blackmailed to receive services and maintain confidentiality. Cases of severe hemorrhaging, poisoning, infection, or damage to internal organs are all life-threatening results that hospitals will now be faced with. I am an ordained minister, and regardless of what we all believe in, we choose those beliefs for ourselves. For scripture says in Corinthians, "For why is my liberty being judged by another man's conscience?" The government, comprised of mostly white men, has no place to decide for women what is right for them. The ability for any woman in America to make choices concerning her own health is a natural, basic democratic right of every woman. Abortions won't end, but this democracy will if the government refuses to stay out of people's personal choices. Make no mistake about it. Women will die, and there's nothing pro-life about that. I'm Gary Chambers, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate to be one of the votes needed to codify a woman's right to choose as the law of the land.
Yeah, his ads are incredibly raw. And also, by the way, 100% accurate. Some people who are on the right side of this issue might not like seeing that, and I get it. The reality that we are entering into as a country can be triggering, can be incredibly upsetting. Many of the people who will complain about this ad, though, on the other side, don't want to see it and don't want you to see it because they are perfectly fine with what you saw in that video happening in the abstract. They don't want it to be focused on. They'd prefer that you not think about it, but they're perfectly fine with that happening. They know that it's inevitable. They are pushing for the world depicted in that video.
No, they think also similar to the story of the 10-year-old who was raped and had to seek an abortion in a neighboring state, whose story they disbelieved and will continue to disbelieve. That will be common, as well as what we saw in that video will be common. You guys, this is not ancient history. You know, I just watched the HBO doc The Janes on HBO. There we go, which was about women before Roe v. Wade was passed, getting their abortions from the mafia, random shady characters they didn't know, and going to a weird hotel room, being treated really, really brusquely, and then being left with another woman or whomever else to bleed out effectively and being left alone. And then they had to then call 911. That was the protocol. It was like, we'll do the abortion, you're gonna bleed, then you're gonna call 911. Like, that's what will happen. That was in this like late 60s.
Yeah.
And this, obviously the Janes really took it up. I mean, they were like a clandestine abortion clinic that were run by women and were incredibly dope and did heroic work. But like, it's not, the right is gonna look at that and be like, that never happens. No, it does happen all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and they're perfectly happy, fine with that. I like, by the way, that Gary Chambers pointed out the possibility for blackmail. Yeah, there's the immediate health consequence, there's the added cost and everything. And then also, you're doing something that they've decided is gonna be illegal. And so think about the exploitation that could come about as a result of that will come about. Like we've talked about this sort of thing, what, hundreds of times through the course of this show and your show and the network and everything. Yeah. We were talking about it as don't let this happen because it'll be bad. Now we're talking about what is set to happen.
Yeah.
States are outlawing it as we speak. And I know some people will be like, no, but you're still kind of exaggerating. There's so many people in like the legacy media, they're like, no, don't even, people are freaking out. But like eventually in a couple of years, it'll settle down and we'll all have agreed on 15 weeks as a ban or whatever, never mind that many states have already gone way beyond that. No, you do not understand. If you're one of these people who are so disconnected, where the news that they're covering it is just a career, there's no human cost to it. They are racing past that. And I'm not speaking hypothetically. At the Idaho GOP convention in Twin Falls this weekend, delegates approved changes to the party platform that criminalizes all abortions without exceptions for rape, incest, or even to save the life of the mother. No, we keep getting told, why are you freaking out? There's always gonna be the exceptions. They're not heartless, cruel people. They'll have the exceptions for rape and incest, and obviously for the life of the mother. Why would you imply, you radical, that we wouldn't do that? No, they just did it. It wasn't close, by the way. Delegates voted 412 to 164 to reject an amendment that would have allowed an exception if the mother's life was in, quote, lethal danger. And they say, we affirm that abortion is murder from the moment of fertilization. All children should be protected regardless of the circumstances of conception, including persons conceived in rape and incest. And they're willing to go on the record by name. Scott Herndon, who's running for the Idaho Senate and is unopposed, he'll get in, says, we will never win this human rights issue, the greatest of our time, if we make allowances for the intentional killing of another human being. You don't put to death the innocent child for the crime of its father, but that's what this law would allow. He added that if a mother really wants to kill her child, she could lie, say she was raped, file a police report, and go get her child killed in the state of Idaho, and nobody be persecuted. He's fine with her dying, literally needlessly dying. That's what they're pushing for. They're monsters.
What innocent child are we talking about in this case? I'm sorry, what innocent, are you talking about the fetus? Are you talking about the 10-year-old or 11-year-old or 12-year-old who will be raped by their father or by a father figure or anyone, a neighbor, and then become pregnant as a result of that rape? Are you talking about that child? Because that's actually a child. You're talking about them losing their life if they are forced to give birth to a baby? What are you talking about here? No, all this is rape apology. It is green light for incest, for rape. This is the party that claims they hate pedophiles. They think that dressing in drag means violence against children, right? They think that you're teaching kids the don't say gay people, the don't say gay party, now making excuses for rapists and actual pedophiles.
Yep.
I mean, there are no words. I mean, to say nothing of these MFers. First of all, I don't even have to look. They're all men, and they have no idea how the female reproductive system works. They have no idea. They clearly they don't have wives or kids, and no one's ever had a miscarriage. No one's ever had to had any kind of emergency in their pregnancy. Amazing, bless you for living on some other place, but it ain't Earth.
They would be offended by you implying they should know or give a damn about any of that. Yeah. They would find that to be presumptuous.
Beautiful Idaho.
Yeah, no, so Idaho will lead the way and the others will follow. It is, as I keep trying to reiterate, an ideological inevitability. You cannot tell your base for 50 years that this is murder. Oh, but murder's okay in some cases.
Yep.
I mean, murder's bad, sure, but that was rape. So we're gonna give an exception. No, these people are bloodthirsty. Not most people. Most people don't agree with this any more than they agree with Roe v. Wade being taken away in the first place. It's always gonna be a small minority. It's gonna be 25 to 33% of the country that believes that the state can mandate that a person die, needlessly during a pregnancy that would never have come to term. And they will push for it in whatever state they can. And by the numbers, they shouldn't be able to win on this issue in literally any state. In a democracy, that would be. But we don't live in one. Their position has always been massively amplified by all the structural inequities in our quote unquote democracy. And so they'll get it in Idaho, and they'll get it in Mississippi, and they'll get it in Alabama and Louisiana, and eventually Texas, and it's gonna spread and spread and spread. And we are going to be, it's like all those stories that we've covered, things that'll happen in Ireland or in South America, a needless, easily preventable death. We're gonna be doing that. We're just gonna be identifying, hey, it's this state this week. And then, another person died in Louisiana this week, totally needlessly, unless they can be airlifted to a state in our particular century.
But you guys, and like finally, we need to reclaim the mantle of family values. So many people who need abortion, so many people who need this life-saving procedure want to be parents. Yeah, okay, you could say they want to be parents in the future. They don't want to be parents right now, but they also, like I am 6 months pregnant, y'all. If something were to happen, I would need a life-saving procedure that if I lived in Idaho and if something like this passed, my life is foregone. Well, what if the fetus can't survive? Well, then you both die. Why? I don't know, God.
Yeah.
So it is morality. These are people who want, or by choice, want to be parents. And they're saying, no, it's about maternal health care. My God, will a right-winger volunteer to pay for all of my prenatal care and just show me that you give a damn about mothers, you give a damn about families. You don't, you really don't.
No, River and I on Friday were talking about in Texas, This isn't politicians just yet. It's the pro-life activists. They want to outlaw IVF.
Yeah.
But you said you want more kids. It's just these are insane people. It is a cult that has enough members that they get to determine what rights you have. That's what we have in this country.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our next story. Oh, okay. Well, not exactly lightening it up necessarily, but the theme of this block is next steps for the cult. So let's get into another one of them.
Obergefell, like Roe versus Wade, ignored 2 centuries of our nation's history. Marriage was always an issue that was left to the states.
So from Clarence Thomas to now a Republican senator, it isn't enough to take away reproductive rights. Now they're coming for same-sex marriage. We knew that it was coming. They can't wait for that battle. Listen to more from Ted Cruz.
In Obergefell, the court said, no, we know better than you guys do. And now every state must sanction and permit gay marriage. I think that decision was clearly wrong when it was decided. It was the court overreaching.
Okay, so that's Ted Cruz speaking with a host who had kind of like a bored look on her face. I get it, he's boring. It's possible she was distracted because as he was speaking, maybe she was wondering which of her rights would be stripped away next. No, I bet she's actually down for this, unfortunately. But anyway, no, they're saying we've now had same-sex marriage legalized federally for multiple years. All of their insane apocalyptic predictions about what would happen, the downfall of humanity, our country would go the way of Rome, never made any sense. And they definitely didn't want a trial run of it because they knew none of that could make any sense. It couldn't come true. So now we've had it for years. Millions and millions of people have gotten married. It's had no negative impact whatsoever. But regardless, that might be next. It might go back to the states, which look, they'll say go back to the states because they don't want to say what they want to do. They want overnight 25 states to break apart all of those marriages, break apart all of those families. The pro-life family values party is going to identify 10, 20, 30, 40 million families, and they are going to, by the power of government, separate them.
It's just incredible. Oh my God. Just like Christian nationalist Colonel Sanders up there giving away the ghost, telling everybody what they're gonna do. Yeah, they are gunning for gay marriage in the same way that we know that abortion rights are not only is Roe being overturned, but they're gunning for a complete ban on abortion. And yes, including in cases of rape, incest, and the health of the mother. But here you have the broader plan from the Supreme Court and the fact that when you roll back certain rights based on the Constitution, which we know doesn't say abortion, you dumb idiots. Like, we know it's based on the right to privacy. Don't you guys love that when it comes to your guns and your money? Well, what about your body? Arguably things a little bit closer to home, although who knows, they don't know where you keep your gun, let's be real. Like, when it comes to like who you sleep with, who you marry, whether you wanna like grow another human life inside of you for 9 months. No, then it's totally fine. It's not overreach. That's not overreach. It's court overreach to say you can sleep with and marry whomever you want. But it's like God reaches all things. Like, what is the logic here? There is no logic. So not only do Democrats need to reclaim the mantle of family values, but also the right to privacy. I absolutely think, yes, of course abortion is a right. Of course the right to marry is a right. But also we have to remember what these rights were even based on. And they should and they are based on the Constitution. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be gay marriage, then it's gonna be same-sex sex. Anti-sodomy laws are gonna be A-OK. Then who knows? Maybe it's gonna be Loving versus Virginia, and Clarence Thomas is gonna be like, oh, Ginny, it's been real. It's been real.
Yeah, and these are, like we're gonna see it trickle down. Nick Fuentes was saying the anti-sodomy laws should come back, and not just for same-sex couples, by the way, for straight couples too. Like it's a small government. That's what they want, which has just the capacity to find out exactly what sort of foreplay you're getting up to. That's what they want. It was always a ruse. The government is supposed to be small when it comes to the rich and corporations and maybe your guns. And that's really where it ends. In every other area, whatever misinterpretation they have of the Bible, that's where the government can get into your life. But I know what you're saying. That's Ted Cruz. Does it really matter? No one else could possibly agree with him on that. Oh, wait. We're getting an update. Josh Hawley says, I think that Obergefell was wrongly decided. And Lindsey Graham says, I leave it up to the court. And Mike Braun, he was asked about interracial marriage. And he says he would be okay, whether he would be okay with the Supreme Court leaving the question of interracial marriage of the states. He replied, yes.
Yep.
So like, I can't even keep up with the things that they want to strip away. We do a daily show. And we are just trying to catch up to all of the different rights they want to strip away, the different couples they want to break apart, and all of this so that their taxes won't go up. All of it. And like maybe there's a couple of conservatives watching this, like we want to help you. Do you get how you're being conned? Do you think that Ted Cruz, millionaire Ted Cruz, actually gives a damn about any of this? No, he just really hopes that he can get you to focus on it. Focus on it so much that you won't realize that your wages aren't keeping up with inflation, and you can't afford a home, and you don't have health insurance, or even if you do, you could still face medical bankruptcy if the inevitable outcome of the American diet comes to your home. That's what this is all about. They're gonna find a boogeyman so that you sink slowly into an early economic grave and don't even notice as it's happening.
I do think it will backfire on them. I mean, not with this president who doesn't even want to talk about expanding the court, which is really the only thing we can do. But I do think politically this will backfire on them. I'm not a like just go vote person. I do think it's important, but what in the year 2022, rolling back these basic rights now? And again, like granted, remember Trump was sailing on xenophobia and racism. Stick to that. You had gay people, you had log cabin Republicans who were like, hell yeah, build the wall. That was crushing. That was super crushing. This, not gonna crush. I'm sorry. I do think it will backfire.
I hope so. I hope so. Wouldn't it be great to have someone on our side? Wouldn't it be great to not just have our defense be, I hope it doesn't work.
No.
But with Joe Biden, man, what else can we hope for right now?
I mean, in quick caveat to what I just said, like I'm not saying you throw people of color under the bus in exchange for these issues, but we have to understand that all of these are part of the same white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchal system that we live in, right? That we can't separate out women's issues from LGBTQ issues, from racial justice issues, from economic justice issues. It is all one and the same. It is part of their platform. It is part of their whole Machiavellian, worldview. Right?
Yeah.
And so let's not be divided here as we move forward, or pit one another against one another on what's a bigger, more important pressing issue. No, we need to do something about policing. We need to do something around racial justice. We've done zero in this administration. So anywho, y'all know that.
Yeah, no, we're not in favor of setting up a vulnerable groups Hunger game, basically, which is unfortunately what we're often asked to play.
Exactly.
Okay, with that, we are gonna take our second break. We come back. Someone is speaking up in defense of Joe Biden and kind of roasting him in his presidency unknowingly at the same time. That'll be a little bit of fun after this. Anita says in the YouTube comments, Francesca, you give me hope.
Aw, thanks.
That's nice. I remember hope.
I appreciate that.
Anyway, also on YouTube, Jennifer Brown became a tier 2 member, getting access to those top 10 lists. By the way, you know what I love? I love discovering like a new YouTube series and then finding out that it's been on for a couple of years. I recently discovered Pitch Meeting and watched 150 of them or whatever. Well, we have a version of that. When you sign up, you might do so thinking, oh, I want to get access to that top 10 list they're filming this week. But did you know you also get access to like 100 past ones? We've done so many over the past couple years.
I don't even have access.
Oh yeah?
I mean, I do them, but I'm not a member.
Exactly.
I'm cheap.
We're gonna try to get you a membership, okay?
No, but that's a really good perk. We've done some really fun ones.
Yeah, exactly. We've done a couple of series.
Yeah, and I predicted the war on Ukraine, which
she
is
did actually.
Not really fun, but true.
When we get to no, it's totally true. When we get to our predictions for 2023, I'm gonna need you to be much more careful with the things you say, because I think you're manifesting disaster. By the way, I'm seeing a lot of love for pitch meeting in the chat. I love that. It gave me a lot of joy. Just pure comedy. That's all I need now. Anyway, with that said, a dystopian sunset member for 6 months just says Pop-Tart. I like it. Thank you. Nikki C, member for 20 months. Thank you very much. Lizzie Nanny Dragon has been a tier 3 member for 19 months. Says the only positive to having COVID is that I can watch y'all live. That's awesome. Lizzie Nanny Dragon, I don't think I've ever seen you in one of our tier 3 member hangouts. You got to make time for it sometime. In fact, we've got one coming up this Thursday. So every month, we all hang out as a little group and just chit chat about what's going on in our lives, stuff we've been watching, books and stuff. It's a lot of fun. That'll be happening this Thursday. We'll give you more information as we go. Brian's been a member for 7 months. Says my B-day today, and I'm having an herbal supplement. That's funny. My wife and I had COVID when I joined, and we think it led to her. And we think it led to her passing in March. Bit conflicted. Oh no. Oh geez, yeah. Shocked us there at the end. Well, I'm very sorry about that. Sorry about, obviously a bit of a down birthday. Really sorry about that. What a rough couple of years. Jessica says in the super chat, you need to look at Moore versus Harper. It's up for review by the Supreme Court. All these others, while big or small compared to this, they will take courts' rights away to keep voting ethical. Oh, if you're talking about the one that they're going to use as a justification to effectively take away all federal oversight of elections. Oh, no, I'm totally aware. We've talked about on the show and we will continue to, but thank you for raising it. That is the next absolutely massive one. Webster Daniel says watching Pitch Meeting is tight. If you watch Pitch Meeting, you get that reference. Anyway, Samuel the Kind Dragon over on Twitch has been a subscriber for 21 months and says, what? We officially have a 1-year-old baby dragon squad. Oh, very cute. Thank you. Verity NS with us for 26 months says, hey, Dragon Daddy and Francesca. Damn, that goes all the way back to the beginning. That's awesome. Delta Quadrant Dragon, subscriber for 16 months says, there's nothing more fantastic than Mondays. You are glowing more and more every day, Franny. And John looking studly as ever. Yes, as she gets closer to giving birth, I'm somehow getting a sympathetic non-pregnancy. I don't know. Anyway.
You guys better keep up the nice comments after I give birth when I'm like, yeah, how am I? I look pretty.
No, we're just gonna have the camera pan down. She's gonna be napping during most of the show. Yeah, because she will be on the next day. Damn it, during if necessary. You better finish that thing, okay? Anyway, because you're doing the show. Anyway.
Finish that thing.
Okay. Love like the process. The process. Okay. Now, I want to be very clear. I've never referred to a newborn baby as that thing. I mean the process of birth. And boy, if you're coming in and not having seen The Social Break, you have no clue what we're talking about. But anyway, with that,
John just became an anti-choicer in the break. You better finish that thing. That's what Republicans are saying. You better just ate that whole baby.
That's not 100% accurate, okay? Anyway, with that, someone's RC Tycoon says Fran will just have a noisy co-host all the time. Hashtag baby dragon, hashtag co-host.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, well, with that, let's jump into some more fun, everybody. Jill Biden is the first lady, so we get that she's going to have the back of Joe Biden, but she's doing it in a way that I don't know if it's really getting across the message that she thinks it is. So she says, the president had so many hopes when he got into office, but the problems of the moment came first. So we want to give you some more details there. She says the president had so many hopes and plans for things he wanted to do, but every time he turned around, he had to address the problems of the moment. This was during a fundraising event in Nantucket. Said he's just had so many things thrown his way. Who would have ever thought about what happened with the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade? Well, maybe we saw it coming, but we still didn't believe it. The gun violence of this country is absolutely appalling. We didn't see the war in Ukraine coming. Now, we have more comments of hers to get to, but I'm gonna take issue with a little bit of her strategy or her view, her narrative here. First of all, most of the things you just cited happened like a year into his presidency. Where are the excuses for the first 12 months, Jill Biden? And it is, we have to admit an admission that when we say as progressives that he hasn't gotten much done, and the head in the sand centrists will be like, how could you say that? He's done so much. Well, on our side is Jill Biden, because she's saying he had a lot of hopes, but what are you gonna do? Circumstances intervened. She's being clear. He didn't do nearly as much as he might have planned. It's kind of a rose-tinted glasses view of his motivations to begin with, Francesca, but she seems to be on our side that he could have done a lot more.
I guess that, yeah, but I'm also like, I really, and Vice President Kamala Harris made a similar point after the Dobbs decision, which was like, it's different when it actually happens. We sort of felt like it could have, but it just feels a little different. Like, oh yeah, you think it feels a little different? You're in power. What have you been doing about this? We saw this coming. Why do you think there was a massive outpouring the week after Trump was elected? Called the Women's March, one of the biggest, if not the biggest mass demonstration in American history. It was because we all saw that our rights could be on the chopping block. And we all saw these decisions coming down the pike. And so to be honest with you, like, of course, they're never gonna talk about Republicans because it's just, they talk about like the things being rolled back as if it's just a change in the weather. I wonder who's doing this. Gee, no, it's the hand of God that's just sort of rolling all these rights back. No, you know who it is. It's Republicans. You've known their plan. You've known their plan inside and outside the courts. They've had dark money funneling into all of these Supreme Court justice nominations, including other federal judgeships. Come on, wake up. So when we get told that we're freaking out unnecessarily, or that they've got it, or let the adults in the room handle it, because we know how to RNC whisper, like we know how to Mitch McConnell whisper. No, you don't. You're asleep at the wheel. You have no idea. And look, you say now you're blindsided. Give me a break.
Yeah. Do you want to be furious?
Yes, I know. I know what's coming. I know it gets worse. I know.
Listen to this next graphic. Jill Biden says she told her own family members they should think about doing more than protesting. Quote, so many young girls, my own grandchildren included, went up to the Supreme Court and marched. I say, okay, good for you, but what are you gonna do next? You feel good about yourself because you voiced your opinion, but what are you gonna do next? What is your plan? And I don't have enough FUs to give to Jill Biden from that. Your husband is the president of the United States, and you're going to your 10-year-old grandchildren saying, what's your plan, Sally? What was his plan? The rights were stripped away on his watch, and that's just one issue. We could go through a bunch. You're taking issue with little Emma? You think Emma's the problem? Oh yeah, well, how are you gonna reform the Supreme Court? Talk to Joe, he's technically in charge.
She's so uppity, She's just all into her TikTok or whatever, get a job. Like, what are we, this is a girl who is the same age, again, as the young girl who was raped in Ohio and had to go seek an abortion in Indiana. Or you're gonna, as she comes back to Ohio, be like, well, what's your plan to fix it, young lady? Like, I'm sorry. I mean, if there's no better like signifier than the adults have left the building, like absolutely, like because I bet that granddaughter will be like, "Are you for real? Like, could I be in charge? Because I'm pretty sure I could do this better than either of you guys." Pop.
Exactly. To the pop.
Or
by the way, I have no
on,
idea
pop,
how
pop.
old their grandchildren are, but as who said it just so flames on the side of my face, flames, blue lizard guts is totally right. How dare you, Jill Biden? Stop talking to wee Sally and go talk to Kirsten Sinema, okay? If you want to talk to someone who's really concerned about being cute all the time, but that might have some influence over the process, I'd start with Sinema and not with Sally, okay? Sally can't even vote. And even if she could, that's not the solution because we already did that. We gave you power. You got the House, you got the Senate, you got the White House. What are you doing with it? And I get that she's not the president, but arguably she can ring him up on the phone and talk to him about his lack of plan.
It's amazing. You could throw the same thing back at her. That's so cute. Wow. So you won the presidency. You must feel really good about yourself. Yay. But what are you going to do next, Jill? What are you going to do with all this power? What's your plan, Jill and Joe?
Yeah.
Incredible. It just absolutely incredible. You know what my plan is, man? Lighting your home on fire. Like she should just be like, I'm occupying the White House, Mima, right now. Yeah. Just like you hear a click and she's just like chained herself to her grandma. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah,
that's
her plan would be pick up a power drill and tell me which port is Joe Manchin's yacht docked in tonight?
Yeah.
No,
you thought $20 every Christmas was gonna shut me up? Nuh-uh. Mima.
God, these people. These approval. I know there are many naysayers who say we'll get slammed in the midterms. Okay, the Republicans are working hard. They stick together for good or evil. So we just have to work harder. First of all, not for good or evil. How the hell do you not know which of those two they've chosen? They've been very clear about it. And so we have to work harder. Stop saying we when you mean y'all, okay? We need to work harder means that you also need to do something. You just mean y'all should vote, okay? If that's what you mean, say that, okay? You can be clear about it.
Just such big one-term energy. Oh yeah, most one-term energy. You think Trump had one-term energy? I mean, he either had like one-term or forever energy. This is just the most one-term president energy.
Yeah, and by the way, like generally, attacks against the first lady, I'm not down for dumb, shallow, stupid shit. That nothing to do. I apologize. That has nothing to do with anything. Mark that. This is her directly spitting in the face of all the voters and mirroring the commentary of all of the quote unquote moderates. By the way, this is not her being a wild card. She is advancing the narrative they would love you to believe going into the presidency. Anyway, with that said, and hopefully no more swears coming, we're gonna move into the last story of the first hour, starting with this.
Yes.
I don't want him to. I like what he stands for. I like what he does, but he upset too many people, and he upset him really bad. So I don't think he's good for the party.
Should Donald Trump run for office? And you go and you talk to people, maybe outside of a cafe, and then you get a little montage of, no, they're not actually feeling it anymore. Now, you've probably seen stuff like this. Maybe the Republican Accountability Project, maybe the Lincoln Project or whatever, like showing that Trump voters are moving on from him. No, that was posted on Fox News. Fox News Digital, mind. Tucker Carlson's not necessarily going near that yet, but this is interesting. These little rumblings of, oh, maybe they're switching to the DeSantis bus. Take a look at more.
You know what? I voted for him for my very first time. I voted for him. I don't think it'll be best for our country for him to run for re-election. You know, I'm thankful for everything that he's done, but I think that our Republican Party needs to be united.
At this point, he's a little too polarizing, and I think that there are candidates out there, Republican candidates, obviously, that maybe be able to pull in people that he would lose to be able to change this.
I would like to see, Governor DeSantis or someone like that, some new blood in the race.
DeSantis run for president, and if he wants to, then he can pick up Donald as the vice president.
100% DeSantis. There's no question about it.
Well, I'm a DeSantis fan as well. Donald Trump had a great run. I thought he was a great president while he was president. After the fact, I think we've seen a lot of divisiveness that's come from things, and I wouldn't vote for him in a primary, but the policy that he was able to do, I would probably vote for him in an election, but not a primary.
Okay, so there's a lot of nonsense there. But anyway, I have spent what feels like, I'm gonna say 30 years now having to talk about Donald Trump. And at every step along the way, I have attempted to insult him as burningly and devastatingly as possible. But I don't think I've ever achieved, I think DeSantis should be president and maybe he can pick up Trump as his VP. Oh, shot through the heart. And Fox News Digital is to blame. That was pretty good, Francesca.
I
mean, this was a choice that they made. They went and interviewed those people. They cut out all of the pro DeSantis stuff to stuff into that thing. Spicy stuff.
He's a loser. I mean, I think it comes down to that. It's so amazing to hear people like, he got a little divisive. Like, oh yeah, really? He started his campaign calling Mexicans rapists. He got divisive? Tight. No, it's because he's a loser. It's because he lost. I bet they even liked what happened on January 6th, but they were like, I don't know, a little too much. A little too much on the feces for me. I just love this. I have to say, I don't envision a 2024 in which Donald Trump can step aside to allow Ron DeSantis to be the nominee for the Republican Party. I mean, he will, and maybe he'll rightfully lose to Ron DeSantis, and then we're effed if Joe Biden is the pick. We are, but that's farther down the line. But I don't see a passing of the MAGA crown to DeSantis. What about you?
I mean, look, we've been following this as it's developed. I mean, we know apparently Trump's fundraising is down. DeSantis is raising more money now. Now, granted, this is when DeSantis is driving the news constantly by like picking a group in Florida to demonize and just lie about it. Trump largely hasn't been making news. He cannot wait to announce, and it is coming soon, way sooner than normally you would announce for an election that's still a couple of years away. So any day now he could do it. But and by the way, Trump is still winning in the polls against DeSantis, but every month DeSantis narrows that gap, and it's going to be very exciting. Devastating, by the way. None of this is good, and DeSantis becoming president is a different sort of dystopic nightmare. But if you think that that the news has been a bit boring over the past year or so, wait until if they go at it, it is going to be scorched earth like you've never seen in a primary before. That's my prediction.
Yeah. And then you'll have Ted Cruz in there being like, "But
I too would like to speak.
I grew a beard and I would like to be remembered for that." Exactly. And like it just, and everyone's gonna be like, "Shut up, Ted. We still don't like you. Stop." But that's good. I mean, look, Fox News putting it even on the digital platform says something. They're trying to drop subtle hints.
It does, and they're gonna be attacked for it. Yeah, and in the end, Ted Cruz is gonna get 2% of the vote. The possum on his face is gonna get 1% of the vote. He's not gonna make a big splash, really. Anyway, with that said, those of you watching just the first hour on the podcast, linear platforms, that sort of thing, thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. Those of you watching the full show, don't go anywhere because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. One of the most ridiculous anecdotes I've ever heard and more with me and Francesca coming up after this.
This has gotten out of hand.
Okay, everybody. I wasn't sure if they were actually coming back. Sophie was mad at me. I'm back though. I'm John. That's Francesca. You probably know who she is by now. If you don't, that's weird. You can go to her if you want. You can show her. There she is. She's there.
Nice
we're glad to have you, Francesca. It's a pleasure, always.
Always.
Now, with that said, we have some more topics to talk about, including one that's like nothing but fun in a sec. But first, Esoteric Dragon has been a member for 3 months and has started watching TYT and TDR before the 2020 election. Thanks for keeping me informed on our journey through this late stage capitalist hellscape. Thank you. That is like the mission statement of the show. We should write that down. Anyway, Brandy Rubel has been a member for 19 months and says 18 actual months with John and Fran. Thank you. Opossum Shemin says, John, again with the opossum slander when talking about the facial hair of Senator Ted Cruz. Carmina the Singing Dragon says in a super chat, there was a mall shooting today, stopped relatively quickly by an armed bystander. 3 or 4 people still died. Good guys with guns don't save everyone. Yes, actually at the beginning of the show, we were talking about that. What that person did was great and probably did save lives. That's awesome. Clearly not a solution to the problem though, because multiple people are still dead. So you're very right in that. Non-human humanist says, in an emergency abortion, only one life can be saved, that of a pregnant person. If both are savable, it's called an emergency delivery. Repubs are evil.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for that clarification.
If it's one that even they can't deny is morally obligatory, they will then say, but that's not an abortion. They've started to do that now. Like deny, I don't even understand what that means.
That's my favorite. I mean,
yeah.
No, by the way, just so y'all know, that's the last we're ever gonna hear of a child pregnancy seeking abortion. That's it. The right will never, ever, 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 ever cover it again.
They're not gonna engage with it. Yeah, they thought that they could get something out of this one. Anyway, Quaker lady sent in a super chat to say buying a house closing Wednesday. That's awesome. It's very difficult for the past few years. It was difficult before then. So difficult thing to do. Congratulations for getting your way through it. It can be sent in a YouTube comment saying it's hotter than Jennifer Affleck's honeymoon suite over here in Europe. Oh God. Anyway, we will be talking about that story later.
That makes your skin crawl. We've been talking about disgusting Republicans for an hour. And the idea of
Ben
Jennifer
Affleck having sex, I'm not interested
with J-Lo. Have you seen Hustlers? Wow, I feel like I have to leave right now.
Yes, I have seen Hustlers. You raise a good point.
That's beautiful lovemaking, and we all deserve a peek.
Don't know. No. Okay, finally, okay, one more thing. Carmina the Singing Dragon also sent in a super chat to say, being in Florida, it's bad. He's changing our education. He took social emotional learning out. He's passed anti-protest laws, gerrymandered 2 Democrat black districts out. Yes. By the way, speaking of schools, I had breakfast with an old friend of mine who's becoming a public school teacher, and his wife is a public school teacher. But they like gave me some info. I am like several decades out of step with the state of public schools in terms of like class selection. I cannot believe the position we've let our education system get to. Anyway, we'll talk more about that at some point. For now, though, why don't we dive into our first topic with this?
Somebody on the beach was reading one of my books, and a guy came over to him and said, "Are you reading a book by Dershowitz?" And he said, "Yes," and he punched him in the mouth. I got that letter today. I'm gonna be posting it on Twitter. Recently, there was an event in Martha's Vineyard of Jewish Democratic leaders. Who is the most Jewish, well-known Democrat on Martha's Vineyard? Me. I didn't get invited. Old friends have refused to invite me to concerts and events because they say if you're invited, no one will show up. And this includes some very prominent politicians, some very prominent people who are part of this cancel culture, and they canceled me because I defended the constitutional right of President Trump.
Yeah, so Dershowitz has got the whole cancel culture thing mixed up. The idea that like you'd lose a job, that's the thing they normally say, that's the cancel culture. No, the idea that if you're at a party, nobody wants to come, that's not cancel culture, that's you sucking. And I get that like everybody's entitled to their own kink, but it's a specific one to go on TV to talk about how nobody wants to party with you. Dershowitz, what has become of you? But he said he would post that letter.
R.I.P. Epstein. Oh my God, the only one who would want to party with you, Jeffrey Epstein, on Pedo Island.
Parties. Yeah, enough parties. Not you, him. Not you. You haven't been there. But anyway, he said he was going to post that letter, and he did. And I love this letter. I'm going to read just an excerpt. I was reading your book yesterday at the beach when some guys who I was playing beach volleyball with asked me about the book that I was reading. And so I showed them the book. They then asked why I chose this book. And so I told them that I had a great deal of respect for the author. The next thing that happened came as a total shock to me. Without warning, I was slugged and punched in the face. I asked why that was called for, and I was told that it's because his political viewpoint and mine differ. I told them that I get it, that our viewpoints differ, but why can't we at least be civil about it? With that, he laughed, shoved me once into the sand, and kicked sand all over.
Like a cat, just like covering up his poo.
What is this? Is this SpongeBob? What is going on here? Like, if that actually happened, that's terrible. But I feel confident laughing at it because there ain't no way that happened. First of all, that you'd write about the incident like that, if that's what happened to you. But that like a person who's been playing beach volleyball with you, this is a person you've been socializing with, is like, Dershowitz, kaplow. And then you'd be on the ground, but sir, why? Why have you struck me so? Because our viewpoints differ. Not how fights work.
Our viewpoints differ is the best. Like that's like, what? What you say that after punching someone in the face?
No.
First of all,
no, you don't.
Volleyball people at the beach are the happiest people at the beach. Number one, I want to say I don't know what's going on with them, but they are just like they are living in a Malibu Barbie dream house. Okay, that's like nothing but beach volleyball and visors and like Ryan Gosling and whatevs, Margot Robbie and Coronas. Life is great. They don't have time for you. Like, do you read, nerd? Just like the volleyball people are like they're the bullies on the beach. That being said, it is something that I feel like I would do. It's like. See someone reading Dershowitz and be like, really? Are you really reading Dersh? I mean, I wouldn't hit them, but I would want to.
I'd maybe kick the sand. I wouldn't hit them.
Maybe kick the sand.
For who is at the beach like playing a little bit of volleyball and then, oh no, I'm just gonna be over there chilling with my Dersh. I don't believe any part of this story actually happened. I don't believe it. I do think that he doesn't get invited to parties. I can buy that. I don't have a lot of sympathy for him. You've defended horrible people. You've sullied your reputation. You're tied to Trump. Like that, people have no requirement legally to spend their social time with you. Nobody is owed that.
And especially when you keep on explaining how you have a perfect sex life every time we bring up Epstein. And the fact that maybe you got sexual favors from one of his underage, slaves effectively. Yeah. And you're like, I have a perfect sex life. Nobody needs that over hors d'oeuvres,
Nobody needs that.
Nobody wants that.
No. But anyway, he's been complaining about not being invited to parties on Martha's Vineyard since literally at least 2018. We'll put up a graphic. He wrote a column. This guy has been party cucking himself for going on half a decade because he's not invited to parties on Martha's Vineyard. Dude, I don't get invited to parties on Martha's Vineyard. I don't post on Tumblr about it. What is going on? Go hang out with conservatives. That's your crew now, man. And maybe they won't punch you in the face. Anyway, by the way, coming out of this, the only thing I'm probably gonna remember in a week is that I desperately want to go back to bar trivia so that I could have a team named I totally get that our viewpoints differ, but why can't we be civil about it?
That's a very good team name.
Anyway, okay, with that was our brief interlude in the area of fun. It's time to get serious, everybody, though. Let's jump into this.
What's he doing?
A rare one. Wildfires are breaking out all over Europe amidst an absolutely devastating heat wave. The view out the windows was red. You want to take a look at a heat map of Europe? Take a look at this. They are breaking heat records all over the place. I'm gonna bring that up.
Oof.
Yeah, it's just devastating. And I don't just mean that it's hot. This is the sort of news that we're about to launch into, that when someone tells you like, man, I wonder if someday climate change is gonna be so bad that it'll get through to people. No, there's no someday, there's no future. Right now, this is it. Over 1,000 people have died in just this heat wave in just Europe. 360 people died in Spain just between July 10th and July 15th. More than 800 had died there last month. They had highs of 110 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. And those are huge numbers, but let's keep it real. These are individuals. One 60-year-old Madrid sanitation worker collapsed in the middle of the street while working on Friday. The man was rushed to the hospital with a body temperature of over 106 degrees Fahrenheit and died of heat stroke. He was one of 123 people who died from the heat in one day. Portugal, nearby, 659 people had died in the past week, most of them elderly, and it's not just continental. In Britain, the UK Met Office on Friday issued its first ever red extreme heat warning for Monday and Tuesday, when an exceptional hot spell is expected to hit the country. Some of the stuff that we report on is typical. It's happened for a long time. It might be getting a little bit worse. No, take a look at this. This is the top 10 hottest UK days on record. You'll notice they're happening more frequently. And of course, this falls on last week. We talked about some of the heat records being broken in other parts of the world. This is happening in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. We were talking about in Japan and China, record heat. Yeah. This is what happens. Our producer put in a screenshot. UK Royal Air Force halted flights in and out of its largest airbase because the runway melted. We'll get to the loss soon, don't worry about that. But yeah, over 1,000 people died in one part of the world from one heat wave. That is the new normal, except that it's inevitably going to get worse with every passing year.
And there's no greater metaphor for climate change than the runway of a flight melting as you're trying to take off to burn more fossil fuels. And it's something that I believe was cited originally or was used as an anecdote in a Naomi Klein book, This Changes Everything, which I definitely recommend everybody read, which is basically about how climate change necessitates structural economic changes. And as much fear mongering as Fox News does about, this means socialism, it actually does. It means to a certain extent that we cannot continue to have the 1% hoarding and burning and like fomenting the death of the planet. We cannot sustain this amount of hyper-capitalism. And look, Europe usually, and I know that like I have relatives in Italy, and like in August, there's like that 1 week where things get really, really hot. And yes, the elderly die. And again, these aren't people unhoused. These are people in their homes who maybe don't have AC, there's rolling blackouts all the time, and then they die, and it's awful. Now it's happening in July. Then it's gonna start happening in June. Then it's pretty soon there won't even be springs, etc. Like this is going to keep going on. And like for a small sort of, a solution is also cutting back on the amount of, let's say, internal flights that happen in Europe. I mean, what's sort of ironic there is that you've got people on a train. Europe is very, very famous and well known for an incredible train system, right? But of course, more and more jetliners are pushing, and have been pushing to take, really, really quick and cheap flights all around Europe. Here are people actually trying to like take a more carbon neutral way of transportation. Now they're surrounded by flames. I mean, it just, again, irony on irony here.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's devastating. It's already here. It's already affecting every part of the globe. This is not a thing for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. Oh, those will be worse and we'll follow it, because stay tuned. But right now, this is untenable. But anyway, I wanna go back to the screenshot we put up. There are people pushing for a too hot to work law. Right now in the UK and Ireland, there is no law that says that any given temperature is too hot or too cold to work. The fear, of course, is not just that it's uncomfortable, that it's difficult to work, but the people will literally die. That's one of the reasons we cited that particular sanitation worker in Madrid. This is already happening. And so we need these protections, not just for the UK and Ireland. There has to be considerations here as well. And how likely do you think it is that that will be allowed federally for something like this to happen? Maybe some states will do the right thing, but like maybe people don't remember, was it last year that those tornadoes like swept through, I think it was Amazon facilities.
Yes.
And they hadn't been allowed to leave. And like now we've moved on and nobody's even thinking about it. Like the corporations are not gonna willingly let people take work off as more and more days become impossible to work on. So that is something, again, another thing that we're gonna have to push for. And until we do, people will needlessly die.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And don't get it twisted. It is the cost benefit analysis of an entire warehouse. Luckily, not many lives were lost, but even a couple lives. But let's say 30 employees at an Amazon warehouse were killed in a tornado. You think that matters to them? You think they can't pay out those families? You think they can't go through those lawsuits? It's Amazon. Of course they can. They would rather do that than actually warn people, have people stay at home, in any way inhibit their productivity.
100%. By the way, Sophie is reminding us that like 1% of residences have AC in the UK. Yeah, like a lot of these places, they're not made for these temperatures. And so look, it would be a devastatingly expensive and complicated process to renovate all of these homes if that were possible. It is not possible in many of these places. These homes are decades and decades, if not longer, since they've been made. You cannot just swap this stuff in. And we're getting a view of it. These heat waves happen here too. Like we're covering Texas. We're not immune to this. Anyway, with that said, in one moment, we're gonna go on to our last story. I wanna read just a couple comments. Macrocosmic says, John, you watched Obi-Wan Kenobi. Young Princess Leia was 10, a little girl. Can't see 10-year-olds now and not think Republicans are monsters. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that that's how old the actress was, but the idea that they would inflict this on people that age is just insane, or anyone. Emo Dragon's with us for 23 months over on Twitch. Says TDR recharges my spark for activism. Love our little Dragon Squad community. Hi, Franny. By the way, just started Star Trek, the original series. You should be a proud Dragon father. Keep up the amazing work. That's awesome. Inked Betty Game has been with us for 21 months. Whiskey Eye for 22. Hey, Blue Tech's off gifting subs over there. Thank you for that. And with that, why don't we jump into our last story? An update to a story we talked about previously. A judge has decided that an absolutely insane school assignment did not violate the rights of the students that were forced to participate in it. So this is an assignment where they were asked to say how they would punish a slave.
Oh my God.
And just stop, because you might think, oh sure, but what's the context? How was it asked? Are you exaggerating? Is this clickbait? Okay, here's the context for you.
And
a slave stands before you. This slave has disrespected his master by telling him, you are not my master. How will you punish this slave?
Holy
Your decision.
crap.
Oh, and by the way, it's an essay question. It's not like it would be bad enough if you just had to choose A, B, C, or D. No, you need to summon the words yourself to describe how you would punish that master, who in our definition, upon asserting their humanity, was disrespecting their master. That didn't violate the rights of the 6th graders who were asked to engage in this. This is Patrick Marsh Middle School. It was administered to students on the first day of Black History Month.
Oh my God.
By the way, the correct answer was, according to Hammurabi's code, put to death.
Oh, there was a right answer? This wasn't, wait. This wasn't just a hypothetical, let's learn about the history of slavery in a really ham-fisted, awful, disgusting way. There was a right, oh my God. And we're being told that we can't learn about, like, is this okay according to Ron DeSantis? Because it sides with the enslavers? Because it shows, like, puts you in the that really tough position as a white slaveholder. God, I've got to remember the code. Ugh, what was the code? I know it had something to do with death. Ugh.
Yeah, the job of a teacher is very hard, and I have almost endless sympathy for them. I say almost endless because I thought it was endless, and then I kept reading more and more about this story. No, No, none of this. None of this at all. None of this on the first day of Black History Month. None of this on any day of any month. This is unacceptable. The teachers had been placed on administrative leave and later resigned, but now a district judge says the assignment might have had a different effect on the plaintiffs than it did on white students, but they were not treated differently from their classmates. So if something is insane and inherently racist, but there were also white people there, I guess it's not discriminatory or something.
I mean,
so anyway.
This feels like a cruel joke, obviously. No, to say nothing, it will put the black students, it will make them incredibly uncomfortable. But of course, we don't consider their feelings. We're only concerned with white kids' feelings. My guess is white kids also felt quite uncomfortable doing this exercise. Sixth graders.
Yeah, I would hope so.
We would hope.
I can only speak for myself and apparently you and probably our audience. But yes, some uncomfortableness was felt. Jesus, judges. Anyway, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. Francesca Fiorentini, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people see your face again?
Follow me on all the things at Franny Fio and watch the Bitchuation Room, 5/8 Eastern on Sundays. We're moving to Tuesdays though. This Sunday, Emma Viglin's coming on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, John was on last Sunday. You can listen to all the episodes wherever you find your podcast, Bitchuation Room.
Awesome, sounds good. We're gonna go record our top 10 list. It'll be available to our tier 2 and tier 3 members on YouTube, so that'll be coming up soon. Also, I will be leading the first hour of the Young Turks with Cenk Uygur later on today, so definitely tune in for that. For now though, Dr. Rashad Ritchie is gonna be going live with Indisputable. Jessica Burbank will be joining him, so don't go anywhere. That'll be up in just a sec. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.